Alright, we're messing around again. We are doing brake pads and rotors. First item up for bids is safety. We got the tow hook and we got the center frame, both embraced. Third is with the tire being underneath here. Safety first and foremost, and please make sure you're on a level surface. Just because you might know to do something very easily, don't neglect safety ever, regardless of how easy the job may be. And this is the 2004-2008 TSX rotor. I attempted to paint these. That was a horrible idea. This is what you get when you paint them. It's just don't do it. If it doesn't come already painted, or the metal itself in black or dark or anti-corrosive, just don't worry about the rust. I have to tell myself that. Don't worry about the rust at all. But we're going to open this caliper up and pull this rotor off. And these are what you're dealing with down here. All right. So you have a nut right here that you have to secure to then get on the back of this one, and you're doing counterclockwise to get it off. All right. So this is stabilizing it. You're pulling it off with this. In the event that it doesn't come off easy, the technique I use is putting a mallet. Just tap it and it'll get to that point. Just make sure you get good leverage on it. If you want to start tapping, make sure it's to this, at least to this angle, and gravity is on your side. You don't have a lot of room, but a couple good taps just be able to break that loose. And the same thing here at the bottom nut braced right here at the ground is keeping that straight, and I'm pushing this one that way. And it's going to be hard. I'm going to tap this in with a mallet until it becomes loose. And then once you knock it loose, you should be able to pull it out with your fingers. Yep. Yep. And these are two 12mm bolts. This is a 13/16. That's this big part right here. The 13/16 gets on this good, so it holds and stabilizes, so you can pull that bolt off in the back. If you just change the brake pads, this is actually where you stop. So let me pull this caliper off for y'all. And this is really just a matter of pulling it back. Just make sure you're considerate of your brake line. So the fact that it's hanging, that's horrible. So I want to try to stuff this thing. Generally speaking, you should have a box of some sort. I'm gonna get a box and put it right here, but definitely don't have that line pulling. Matter of fact, it's to err on the side of caution. Let me go get some boxes. I take that back. I actually like what that is. That's hooking around that. An earthquake would have to get that off. We're good. But now we're getting two other bolts. These are 17mm. Let me see if I can. So this bolt right here, this is a 17mm, and there's another one down there. I'll mark it, but it's one right here, one down there. This brings off the bottom part of the bracket, and you're doing the same thing for these two as you did for this one. Observe. So it's on it good, and I'm just tapping it. Comes off, and now everything's bucket naked. Some rotors have these screws in them for assembly line purposes. We contacted Acura on that. These are not mandatory to put back in, but if you have them, put them back in. If you don't, I don't think it'll hurt you. Everything is held on by the caliper, centrifugal force, and the tire. So you have excessive amount of voltage here on the back as well. But if it already has it on here, just be thorough and put it back on. But mine's do not. Took mine off a long time ago, and we just take it off. We were at the bottom. Now we will reverse the process. And putting the brake pads in the caliper are straightforward. Just make sure you put it back in the way it came out, and they should just slide in with these retention clips. Sometimes they give you a little problem, but you get it in there. Matter of fact, let me use 2 hands. And if you just gotta go for aesthetics like I do, there you go. It's pre-painted from the manufacturer. They consider everything. And it's gonna look halfway decent when it gets old. So there are redundancies to prevent yourself from putting spray paint anywhere on your rotor. And then what I did is I put everything back on, put the pads back on, make sure everything's flush here. Put this back on and put the bolt back through the caliper. All you need is one bolt to line everything up. And now that this one bolt is on, I can put all the rest of them back in pretty easily. It took a mallet and a hammer to get it off, so I'm gonna hit a couple times to actually tighten it and get it nice and snug. Do that for all 4 bolts. And while we're down here, this is what a bad lower control arm looks like. You see how it looks like it's kind of ripped? It's not horrible, but it's not good either. It should pass inspection. Then we got the bottom part of the bracket on. This is the part where we push the piston back in to actually get this back on top. So let me see if I can show you the piston here. This is your piston. So when you mush your brake pedal, this brake fluid pushes this out. This squishes these. These squish the rotor, in turn slowing your car down. Some people prefer that you bleed the valve when you're pushing this back in. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pushback. It goes to the master cylinder if it goes back up, but it doesn't disrupt anything if you don't do it. If you don't bleed the valve while you're pushing it back in. So I have old school tools. So I get this big old C-clamp. Let me show it to you, hold on. So this is all I'm doing. I have a C-clamp. I'm turning this clockwise to squeeze this back in. This is squeezing that. And once we flush it in, we just stick it back on these. And that's it. And once you get that C-clamp back in, that gives you the room to slide this back on. And then you're just putting the bolts in these 2. 1, 2. But like I said earlier, this is where you would stop if you're doing with just brake pads. You pull this bottom one out, this bottom bolt on the top caliper. You pull this bottom bolt out and just rotate this up. This sits, see? And then you just pull these out, put your piston back in, close it back down, and then put your bolt in, if you're not pulling the rotors off. And again, with the mallet tapping, if it took a mallet to get it off, I'm gonna do a couple mallet taps to get it snug into place. And this one is stabilizing this bolt. I'm pulling this one down to tighten it. Just like that. And this bottom one is being stabilized by the ground. Turn it. Up, it's tight. It's not moving here. It can't move because it has to go to the ground. Drop it down a little bit. Just like that. And that's it. I've just successfully changed my brake pad and my rotors. Definitely make sure, look around the sides and the bottom to make sure nothing's touching this. No rubbing against anything. Put your tire back on, let her down, and well, let me show you that part. And then when you're at the end of your job, your brake's gonna be spongy, but you press it a couple times just to get that out. Yep. And we're good. everything seems fine. You can like, you can subscribe. Any questions, concerns, leave them in the comments question section. Until next time. And one more thing. These things will have you losing your mind. The rotor is supposed to pass through this. If it doesn't, it's going to scratch all that. And when you drive, it's going to make a lot of noise. Make sure you put these on right. If your old ones are on, I wouldn't even bother putting a new set back on, because it's a piece of tin. But just word to the wise.